There are three different variables in any chemical reaction, in any investigation. They are the independent variable, the dependent variable, and the control variable. Now, you could be asked for any experiment what these variables are, so it's really important that you know the definition for them. So if we start off with independent variable, nice and simply, that is the thing that in an experiment you change. So for example, that could be the concentration, it could be the temperature, it could be anything like that. The thing that you are physically changing to see what happens in the reaction. The dependent variable is the thing that you measure. Now, I don't mean by that measuring out 50 centimeters of your acid to put into a reaction. It's the thing that you're going to be looking at the end of the experiment. So for example, the time it takes for a reaction to complete, or the distance something moves, or the volume of gas produced, anything like that. And we'll have a look at some examples in a minute. Then finally, you have your control variable, and that is nice and simply the thing that you keep the same. There are quite a lot of control variables in every experiment, and you guys need to be able to pick them out. So the best way to look at that and to work it out is to have a look at an example question. So here we've got one that says, a student investigated the effect of changing the temperature on the time it took to produce 50 centimeters cubed of gas. In the experiment, she added 50 centimeters cubed of hydrochloric acid to 2.0 grams of small marble chip. Name the independent variable, the dependent variable, and two control variables for this investigation. So you might look at that and think, well, how do I know that? I've never seen this experiment before. And you might not have done, but you can work it out. So let's go back to the definitions. Independent variable, the thing that changed in the experiment. So what is it we are changing? What is the thing that we are physically altering in the experiment? And it tells you the temperature. So you get 1 mark for figuring that out and writing down that the independent variable is the temperature. If we move on to the dependent variable, that is the thing that you're going to measure. So it's not adding 50 centimeters cubed of hydrochloric acid or 2 grams of small marble chip, it's the thing that we are going to measure. And this tells you is the time it took to produce 50 centimeters cubed of gas. So you get your 2nd mark for saying the time. And then finally the control variables. What are we going to keep the same? And there are loads. So if we have a look at this one, she's added 50 centimeters cubed of hydrochloric acid. She's changing the temperature, but the volume of acid should always be the same. So one of those is the volume of acid. The mass of marble chip, 2 grams, it should be kept the same every single time. And then the acid can have different concentrations. We're not changing that, so that must be kept the same. So the concentration of acid, and then the marble chip, is it going to be a powder? Is it going to be a small marble chip? Well, it's saying small, so keep it small. Keep the surface area the same. And that really is all there is to it. So you should be able to now pick out from any experiment what the variables are. Let's have a look at a practice question. And I've got 2 for you. Number 1, an experiment is performed on plants to see how different liquids affect plant growth. Each plant in the experiment is given a different liquid, water, apple juice or milk, and then each plant has the same amount of soil, the same amount of sunlight and the same amount of liquid. So from that you need to pick out what the independent variable is. What is it we're changing? The dependent variable, what is it we're going to measure? And then 2 control variables, what are we keeping the same? That one should be fairly straightforward. It tells you everything you need in the question. And then question 2, an investigation was carried out to find the effect of concentration on the mass of copper sulfate produced. 5 different concentrations of sulfuric acid were reacted with copper oxide. So again, you may never have seen this experiment before, but you should be able to now work out the independent variable. What is it we've changed? The dependent variable, what is it we've kept the same? What is it we've measured? And the control variables, what is it we've kept the same? Pause the video, have a go at both questions, and we'll see how you've done in a minute. Okay, let's go through. So question 1, an experiment is performed on plants to see how different liquids affect plant growth. So the independent variable is changing the liquid. So we're going to have a look at the different type of liquid, and that's going to get you your 1st mark. The dependent variable, the thing that we're measuring, so it's to see how plants grow. So we're going to be measuring the growth of the plant. So the distance the plants growed, anything like that would get you your 2nd mark. And then 2 control variables, what are we keeping the same? The amount of soil, the amount of sunlight, and the amount of liquid, or the volume of liquid. So any 2 of those 3 will get you your 2 marks for that section. If we move on to question 2, so an investigation was carried out to find the effect of concentration on the mass of copper sulfate produced. 5 different concentrations of sulfuric acid were reacted with copper oxide. The independent variable, the thing I've changed, is my concentrations. The dependent variable, the thing that I've measured, the mass of copper sulfate produced. Again, it tells you in the question. And then number 3, name 2 control variables. So it doesn't tell you in the question here, but again, what are we going to be putting in? We're going to have the temperature of the acid being the same. We're going to have the type of acid. We want it to be sulfuric acid. We want it to be the same acid every single time. The mass of copper oxide added, that's got to stay the same. The surface area of copper oxide added. And then the final one, obviously the volume of the acid that we're putting in. So any 2 of those 5 is going to get you your 2 marks for this section. And that really is all there is to it. I have got a review question for you, which is, in a chemical reaction, sodium thiosulfate reacts with hydrochloric acid to produce a cloudy solution. A student investigated the effect of changing the temperature of the sodium thiosulfate on the time taken for the solution to become cloudy. So for the experiment, name the independent variable, name the dependent variable, and name 2 control variables.